how are you ever going to be happy when you care so much about what other people think? And a few follow-up questions was, what if everyone starts to hate what you're doing? Would you still have a reason to be doing whatever it is that you were doing? Let's say you're going to the gym. You're going to the gym and you're trying to build your body up. And you start to, your body shapes itself with time and the work that you've put in. But maybe someone makes a comment about your legs being so big. And maybe that makes you feel uncomfortable inside. Maybe that makes you feel like, oh, are my legs really too big? Like, it starts to make you doubt yourself and doubt what you're doing, doubt what you've created. But if there's something in the back of your mind that says, you know what, I come to the gym to work out my whole body for more energy, for more insulin sensitivity, and I don't do it for the appearance of other people or the validation for other people, because there's that was that one comment, and then there might be 25 other people that looked at you the same day and said, God, those legs are so beautiful, I wish I had those legs. Man, how strong, like what are you able to leg press, what are you able to lift, and then we tend to focus on just that one comment. And I think that's the hardest part about social media. I was talking to one of my friends yesterday. She said that she met an influencer who had a lot of followers on Instagram, and she was talking with her in the gym about health stuff, and she had just had a baby, so she was talking about how having a baby in a hospital is sometimes you don't have all of your rights, or you're not aware of what's going on in the hospital. And especially if you're a first-time mother giving birth, it's very different. There's a lot of things that happen very quickly that you don't know about. And if you have experience and you know a little bit about the process, you can make decisions. But she said she didn't know about these things. And my friend was like, well, why don't you talk about this on your social media? Like, I'm sure people feel the same way. And she said that she was afraid to share that, which was obviously a passion of hers. She was afraid to share that because her husband said that she would lose followers. And I thought that was so sad. And I was listening to this podcast earlier. It was called, he was talking about the cost of courage. And he was talking about how we oftentimes, we have an idea of what people think of us, but it's not actually the truth of how they feel. And he said there's a cost of courage. Like once you open up and you express yourself, like she may have lost, if she started talking about that, may have lost thousands of followers. But like, why would you want to impress people who don't resonate with your heart? I talk about things on here, and I want to talk about more things, more definitely on the spiritual side of things, but I know that people don't agree with me. I'm both in the science camp and there's a mystical nature about life that we don't fully understand, the miracles. I'm definitely on both sides of those camps, and every time I post a video, sometimes I'm posting a video on here and I'm like, well, if the next time I log in YouTube and my subscriber count has dropped to 0, it's for the mission of trying to be myself and share what I love. And so I guess I'm okay with that. I would still be okay. That's what I tell myself, is I would still be okay. If everybody unfollowed me, I'd be okay. And people come and go. People definitely come and go, and on different days we're open to different ideas, and other days our hormones fluctuate, what we're going through. But at the end of the day, my biggest passion in life is to talk about light and strength. Oh, the guy I was talking about with the cost of courage, he was saying that when we compromise who we are, our cardiovascular risk goes up. Like all these, we essentially, it's like wearing the mask and being in isolation. Like, you could be in a crowded room full of people, and if you're not being yourself, you will still feel so lonely. I think that it breaks my heart. That breaks my heart to, I think of the same thing in terms of like relationships, like intimate relational dynamics, and that touches base in the biochemistry. But being in a relationship where you can't be yourself, like codependency, like I've sometimes people wake up like this, like, and that's why I think our divorce rate is so high. Talk about divorce, dementia on here, because we get into relationships not out of a place of authenticity. We get into them, like she made her social media based on what she was interested in at the time, and we get into relationships based in who we think we need to be in order to be loved. And then one day we're like, we can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. Then I either need to be myself or exit the relationship. And a lot of the times people don't think that they could be themselves, which if you think about it, if you should always try to be yourself first and foremost. And then last resort, a different path will open up. But in the biochemistry and the chemistry, we were learning about polar bonds and non-polar bonds. And polar is water loving. And then non-polar is not water loving. They like oils and fats. And if you look at like oil, if you put oil and water in a glass, they won't mix. And so in the polar bonds, the electrons will share electrons unequally, meaning that someone always has to have the advantage. There always has to be a power struggle, just like in really romantic relationships where you feel really, really drawn to someone. There is something that we feel like we need, and a lot of times people like to have power over other individuals. And that really good book that I always talk about, Force versus Power, it's not quite on chemical bonds or anything. It's much better than that. But he talks about the emotional states. I recommend this book. But in the polar bond, it's always about manipulation and control and wearing the mask and needing something from another person. It's the story of codependency. I think that's so beautiful that it's right in the biochemistry that we are told how our relational dynamics tend to work out. It's beautiful because it's like one scale, and then you zoom out on a larger scale, it's like same thing, boom. And then the nonpolar bonds share electrons equally. So it's the definition of like a best friend, like I don't need anything from this person. I enjoy their presence and I want to be with them, but I don't have to be with them. It's equal sharing of electrons. It's very balanced. And so, I always feel like you should rip the Band-Aid off, you should just be yourself. Like, the things that you're worried about, the things that you feel deeply in your heart, like, there is someone around you who feels the exact same way. We just cut ourselves off, we isolate ourselves, and like, I started, when I started posting on social media, it was very uncomfortable for me. I had childhood friends unfollow me. And then I also had a bunch of people say, I love your videos, keep posting, I love the information. Every time, I had somebody today, every time I look at your story, I just smile so big. I love when you post, I love that you're trying to share the truth, and I love that you stayed consistent over the years. That's what somebody told me today, which was so beautiful, But everyone has an opinion, and that's really kind of one of the reasons that I have turned my comments off, because it was very easy just to comment something negative on a video. So I figure, let me turn these comments off, because I'll make my email available, and you can find me on other social media if you want to have a chat. But other than that, like, most of the time I'm talking about actual science and biochemistry that it's taken me years to learn about. So I encourage you to take the energy and to Google information, Google and learn about the biochemical processes of light and mitochondria and energy and the parasympathetic side of the nervous system, and learning all about cortisol, all these things that either help us connect with nature and other people or that keep us in bondage, and A Course in Miracles is also a great book. I recommend it's either we're in heaven or hell in states of the nervous system. We are either in tension and fight or flight, which people are very, very familiar with, overrun by cortisol and inflammation, or we're in the parasympathetic side, the rest and digest. And both sides are very important to be in. We wake up in the morning because of cortisol, so it's not bad, but it needs to be in balance. Just like all the supplements, everything that we take, it has to be in balance, because we could go into mineral deficiencies by supplementing. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, we could over-exercise and put ourselves into a dangerous position. We could drink too much water that doesn't have minerals, and literally people have died from drinking too much water. Even oxygen is toxic at levels that are, too much for us or too little, So everything in the body is about balance. I'm always trying to learn how to balance myself, and, I'm learning how to be in the non-polar bond with people, in the non-polar bond, like not trying to change other people, because I seek balance for myself. I am very in tune with other people and what they're going on in their lives and how they may be out of balance and how that is contributed by food and lifestyle choices. And, I've been on this long journey of just like, mind your business. Like, I always, my number one flaw is not minding my own business. I'll tell you the truth. So, always going to try and tell you the truth here. If I ever say something, misspeak or anything, it's not intentional. And I just want to say that I do love you guys, and I hope the best for you in whatever part of your journey that you're on. This is a long journey that we have, a long journey that they say goes by so quick. They say when we wake up, like as spiritual, like after we die, they say as spiritual creatures, this life looks like a dream. Like, how you wake up at night, from your dream, and it's like a whole thing has happened in that dream. They say that's what life is like when we wake up, and I think that's so beautiful. And before we go, just the last thing I'll say is that I watched this recently. It got me so excited. I watched this past life regression hypnotherapy, and this guy, what he did is he took these people. He's like a professional hypnotherapist. He took these people and he recorded them while they were under hypnosis, and he was doing past life regressions, which means he was trying to tap into their subconscious, into possible past life or simultaneous lifetimes that they lived. And the coolest thing, like, you don't have to believe in any of this, I just find it really exciting, but he found the people, they would record their lives, say what was happening. He'd ask where they were from, what their name was, what their age, and then he would bring them back 2 or 3 weeks later. He'd dig into all the information they gave him, and he found actual evidence of these people having lives in the 1800s, like, sometimes even earlier. And it's just incredible because some of the people, even they were speaking different languages, and when they woke up and they saw themselves on camera, they were like, I don't even recognize myself. Like, and they were like, one lady was speaking Arabic, and she was like, I definitely don't know Arabic. And, it's just, there's so much that we don't know and don't understand and don't see. Even the trillions of cells that we have in our face is like, it's amazing. It's so beautiful. That's why I believe in the miracles as much as I believe in the science. And I do think that science is limited in certain ways. But anyway, I'm going to leave this here. I do love you so much. I wish you the best of luck, and I will catch you later.